Okay, so this is a demonstration of painting flowers just using pan pastels. I'm going to watch myself doing this and I'll tell you about the process. As you can see, I've moved into super fast mode. So I'm using pan pastels on Canson Mi-Tientes paper, the black one, and I just happen to have black and I like painting on black, of just getting some darks in there straight off. And my reference photo are some hydrangeas. Went on a trip recently to the South Island of New Zealand, city that I grew up in, Dunedin, and they've got a beautiful private garden there called Glenfelloc, and there wasn't too many flowers out that particular day. It was end of summer, but the hydrangeas were still in bloom, so I took some photos of hydrangeas and thought that might be interesting to paint. And there's no pre-drawing or anything like that. I've just marked in on the paper, mapped in where I think the flowers should be, where I think the leaves should be, and this is my first attempt using pan pastels for flowers, and certainly my first painting of hydrangeas, so there were firsts all around. The paper's got a little crease on the right hand side. I'm not sure what had happened. Maybe that happened when I put it on the board, and so this is, you know, the paper's already damaged, so it's never going to be a sellable piece. So we're just in a practice piece. I've got a slice of the same colour paper to the far right of me, and initially I decided, or I had imagined that I was going to use that for mixing colours on, because the beauty of pan pastel is you can mix the shades together and create new colours, which is why having a limited palette isn't such a big issue with pan pastel. And what I learned was that I just followed my normal process of just sticking the pastel straight to the paper. There we go. We've blocked in some leaves now. And the leaves, I'm not looking for accuracy. I'm trying to get some to understand how does pan pastel play with Canson paper. I'm using the smooth side of the paper, so there's a side which has got what's sometimes described as an orange peel, and a smooth side, and you're never quite sure, at least I'm never quite sure, which side should I really use. A lot favour the non-textured side, the smooth side. Just doing a tree trunk there. And I'm using the wedge sponge applicator, along with the sort of palette knives that they have. But the wedge just is so fast to work with. I think this painting ended up taking about 4 or 5 hours to do. It was a lot. It took a bit longer than what I expected, but mainly because I didn't know what I was doing. And there's no shame in that in art. A lot of art is experimenting and trying to discover what works. And so I'm trying to understand not just the shades, what I'm doing, but, you know, different shades of colour and tones of values. But I'm also trying to go, well, what sort of marks will sort of represent the hydrangea? Hydrangea's got a lovely sort of 4 petal arrangement, and their leaves are quite serrated. So while I wasn't going for accuracy, I was trying to think about this sort of 4 petal movement, and quite often those petals, one will lay on top of another, and I wasn't intending to use pastel pencils to sort of delineate anything. I was like, let's just see, can we do the whole painting just using pan pastel? How will that work out? So we've got a little bit of a forest floor there with some red and blues. I just slowed down a little bit here so you can see just how gentle the touch is of putting the pan pastel on the paper. It's not a hard stroke. You don't want to fill up, there's virtually no tooth on the paper whatsoever, but the pan pastel will sort of almost soak into it. It will stain the paper, and there's hardly any dust that comes off. I'm just looking at it on my easel now. It looks pretty flat. A lot of framers don't like doing pastels because they're worried about, all the sort of falling apart off the paper. And I'm not using fixative at all doing this painting, so it's just let's test the limits of the pan pastel. Now you see that the colours that I'm using are certainly for the front two hydrangeas are much more blue than the photo, and I just took it with the photo from my mobile phone, which hasn't got a great camera. It's an old Xiaomi 9T. I mean, it must be 5 or 6 years old now, so not a great camera. And the way I hadn't adjusted for white light, so this it doesn't get the colours accurate anyway in the camera. But the blues and getting some reds in there just was much more interesting to me. And in the end, I'm just trying to get where the sun is hitting the petals, and really just experimenting. I'm just throwing blues on at the moment, and I'd been mixing some blues and yellows on I did end up mixing some colours on my side bit of paper, just to see if I could get some different greens, and I opted for getting a phthalo blue and shifting that around the petals and the leaves, just to sort of darken it up a little bit. But for a first attempt at hydrangeas, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out using the pan pastel. I particularly like the upper two hydrangeas and the marks and colours used there. There's a bit of ochre, and a lot of leaves are there's that blue. They're more yellow green. There's a lot of yellow in foliage, and so you want to sort of exaggerate that. I mean, art is often I know there's the photorealism art, and it's lovely, but otherwise you're tending to exaggerate the scene. At least that's how I perceive it, and give a sense of what's happening rather than a photocopy of it. So painting could be better, but for a first time effort at hydrangeas and using pan pastel on Canson paper, I'm pretty happy with the result, and I'll go on to something incredibly more difficult in my next painting. But for now, I hope you enjoyed seeing just how versatile these pastels are and how lovely they are to work with. It was like painting with butter. It was just a beautiful experience using the pan pastel on this particular paper. So hope you have a creative week, and we'll finish with a shot of the painting at the end.